I can summarize this game in 2 words: Trent and Sherfield.
He's going to be a great yard after the catch kind of guy.
Jeff Roberson.
This guy we want to talk about, the Valpo coach, Valparaiso, Bryce Drew.
Women's cross country, 19th in the nation.
You might find like a video of him punching a guy or two.
Also, Wade Baldwin. Absolute stud.
Went to Cincinnati. He completed his degree. He has a bachelor's degree.
He's a complete package. He's the real deal.
And although this guy's covered from head to toe in tattoos,
he's not missing anything. He can shoot threes. He can drive to the rim. He's a great defender. He's good size for a point guard.
Damian, he had 4 fouls in 14 minutes.
And now, live from the Surratt Studios, your home for Vandy Sports Talk Radio, JT and Zeek on West End.
Let's go!
Welcome and anchor down from the Vanderbilt campus. You're listening to JT and Zeek on West End, live on Vandy Radio for the last time. It's a very special day. It was also our last day of classes as Vanderbilt students. Zach and I are both seniors. And we're really excited to talk to you today about some of our favorite memories as Vanderbilt sports fans in our 4 years at the school.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed doing the show. We've really appreciated everybody who's listened to us. It's been a great experience, from going to recording the podcast in a random classroom on one of our computers to being in here on the big stage in the Vandy Radio studio. It's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of really good sports memories. So yeah, today we're going to run through our favorite games, our favorite plays, the best players that we've seen here at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, lots of great memories. We started 3 years ago, right before the 2015 football season. Like Zach said, we actually started in his Blakemore dorm room. That was the first podcast.
That's true.
Johnny McCreary was the quarterback at the time. Things have changed, but we're going to talk about some of our favorite games in our 4 years at Vanderbilt now. Starting with 2018 basketball.
So we're counting down. We have 12 games on here.
Yeah, we have our top 12, top dozen games. They get really good at the end.
They do.
But we'll start 2018 basketball. This is probably the one from this year when we beat Florida 71-68.
Huge game from Jeff Roberson.
In terms of quality wins, this was the quality win of the season, I'd say. Yeah, Jeff Roberson, 26 points. Both of us believed, yes, the refs were against us in the game. It was not a favorable atmosphere for us. But in terms of this year, definitely our favorite basketball game. And it was great because we had a lot of seniors on the team this year, 3 seniors. It was at the end of the season. It was good to get a one quality win in there.
Yeah, I think LaChance and Roberson combined for like 50 that game. It was the right way to send them off. And it was fun. I remember it was like one of those games where you get really frustrated in the first half, and then we turned it around in the second half, came back and won. And that was also the game that Darius Garland, Aaron Naismith, and Romeo Langford and their families attended.
That's right. It was, by far the best atmosphere of the season.
Oh,
it was
definitely.
a really fun game to be at.
Yeah.
Partially because Langford was there, and partially because the game was great. The crowd was full. I was in like the back of the student section. It was packed.
Yeah, it was packed. So the next one on the list, number 11 in our top 12 Vandy sports games of the last 4 years, is a football game. It's a victory, 21-17 over Kentucky, November 14th, 2015.
Yeah, a couple of things stood out in this game. First was we had 2 goal line stands in the first half against Kentucky. One of them was first and goal on the 1 yard line. Stopped them 4 plays in a row. And then the second time was a first and goal on 3. Oren Burks got a pick on 2nd and 3.
Oh, I remember that.
That was one of his 2 picks in the game.
Yeah. Well, one of them was a pick 6.
The other was a pick 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember my dad was in town for that game. That was a fun game. And the 37-yard Sneaky Pete touchdown to air Caleb Scott.
That play was borderline legal. It was
legal.
It was legal.
We
exactly.
told the refs about it. The other team was sleeping.
They didn't know he was there.
No, they had no idea he was there.
Completely uncovered, untouched.
Yeah, and he was so open. It's like you almost worry, is he going to drop it then? He has so much time to think about it. But it felt like the ball was in the air forever. He makes the play. Caleb Scott, one of our favorite players that we've seen here.
Caleb.
This one's definitely on the list for favorite plays and moments as well.
Definitely. Always great to get a trick play in there. Moving on to number 10.
This was a week earlier.
Yeah. 2015 football season, once again, November 7th. Almost beat Florida. Now, it was a loss. We lost 9-7 as Austin Hardin surprisingly, for once, hit a kick. Of course, Vandy Luck. He hit a 43-yarder after being an unclutch kicker all season. He never hit those, but then just happened to hit one in the final 2 or 3 minutes of the game. Nonetheless, we held Florida to just 258 yards in the game and only 57 in the second half. That was a Florida team that was ranked 10th in the country.
Yeah, I remember that game. That was intense. And I think that there was one play near the goal line, too, if I'm thinking of the correct game, where they got in, or there was ruled that they got into the end zone, but they really hadn't.
Yeah, I think
I remember that
too. That game.
Yeah, big run by Ralph Webb. That was a fun game, and it kind of set the tone for the next week.
Yeah, 73-yard touchdown by Webb. A little bit of help from the ref on that block, I remember.
Oh, yeah, the refs at the block, yeah. Yeah. And Ralph Webb, that was big for him, too, because he's from there. Big play.
Gainesville native.
Yeah.
Moving on to our 9th favorite game in our 4 years at Vanderbilt. We're going to basketball.
This is a tournament.
Yep. I guess it's not really a game. It's a 3-game stint. The Maui Invitational, 2015-16 team. While I was back home in Boston.
We destroyed St. John's in the first round.
Yeah.
I remember that was almost like terrible. It's like you almost felt bad. And this was, I think we were undefeated going into it. Is that right? Like, had we played anybody? Because I remember we had a game that went into overtime against Stony Brook.
I know we'd had a few weak games before that.
That was the year that we beat Austin P by a lot. I think that's coming up. Is that on here? Is that still on here?
That game is on there. Yes.
Okay.
Is. We were undefeated going into that. We were 3-0. Overtime game against Stony Brook, destroyed Austin P. Won pretty easily against Gardner Webb also.
Yep. So yeah, first game we destroyed St. John's, and then there was a ranked Indiana team that got beaten by Wake Forest in the first round. Second round we destroyed Wake Forest, won by 20 points, and then sets up a big matchup against Kansas. And I know you remember this one vividly.
No, yeah, Kansas was ranked number 5 at the time. I thought Vandy should have been ranked probably 4. We were
high on the team.
We were ranked 18, I believe, somewhere around there at least.
Yeah.
Playing way better than our ranking, and a win against Kansas would have propelled us into at least the top 10. You have to think.
Yeah, top 10 for sure.
In that game, we were up at the half by 30-26. We were outplaying them. Second half did not go our way. Mostly our shots were not falling, whereas Kansas's were.
Yeah, Wayne Selden was making like every single shot for them. He put up like 30 points in that game.
Yeah.
And that kind of like started the tradition that would continue the next 3 years of players would have like really high point totals against Vanderbilt. Like star players always go off against us. Seems like.
If we get the win, I don't hate seeing that. It's cool to see these stars have some of their best performances. Wayne Selden, absolutely went off that game. And on the flip side, we shot 22% from 3.
Should have had that one.
We took a lot of threes that game. Had like 30% of them gone in.
Yeah.
Would have won that game. And wow. Regardless of the outcome, though, that was a really fun game to watch. And it also gave us a lot of optimism moving forward as fans. We almost beat a Kansas team that finished the season ranked top 5. I think they finished the season ranked 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Easily could have beaten them. We looked like a really, really good team at the time. Obviously, things changed.
Yeah. So next one, new sport. Haven't talked about this one yet. Baseball. I threw this one on the list. This is my favorite baseball game here. It was on March 15th, 2015, first SEC series of the year. I believe it was the Sunday game. It was a beautiful day outside. I remember one of my friends, Austin, got burned because the sun was like to the right if we were sitting on the third baseline, and his whole like right side of his body got burned and the left side of his body didn't get touched at all. But the game itself, their starter was perfect through 7 innings. Perfect game. But they pulled him. I think the pitch count was getting up there. They didn't keep him in. Jordan Sheffield, future high draft pick for us, threw a gem as well. It was like a 2-hour game. and it was 0-0 heading into the 9th inning. And Jason DeLay had a double, got bunted over to third, and then they put somebody on to set up a double play. So there's one out, man on third. But they did that, and by doing that, they brought up Dansby Swanson, who was extremely clutch his entire time here. He came up, got a single, line drive through the infield, and we won the game 1-0. It was like a 2-hour baseball game. Both pitchers threw really well, and we broke up a perfect game in the 9th inning.
That was, agreed. That was one of my favorite games to go to. Both of us are big fans of the quick, low-scoring baseball games.
Love the low-scoring games.
And the best thing is when it's 0-0 going into the 9th, and one of the teams ends up winning, that means there was like a walk-off. So it's suspenseful in the end, too. So you get a quick baseball game, great pitching, and then you get some excitement at the very end.
It was great. It was fantastic. And it was like one of the first, I think it was like the first really warm, like hot day of spring. And it was early. It was in March. That was delightful. Definitely enjoyed it. So after that comes up another game from that same basketball season that we talked about, the Maui Invitational, and we upset a top 10 team. We took down number 8 Texas A&M, winning by 17 points on February 4th. And it was our first win. Is this correct? Our first win over a ranked team in 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Wow.
Pretty remarkable. It was also getting later in the season after we had kind of slumped a lot. This was not the same team that we thought we had after that Kansas game. It was really exciting, though, because this was a team with a lot of potential. Once again, this is like the team with Damian Jones and Wade Baldwin. Obviously, all the people that are still currently on the team, like LaChance, MFD, Roberson. Really talented team that did not realize their potential. But there are a couple of games, this one and one we'll mention later, in which we saw them really, play to their best.
And I got interviewed in this game also. Sean Farnham, the color commentator for the game from ESPN, came down into the student section, and we were in the front row, and he came right between Jimmy and I, and then he asked Jimmy what his major was, and his major is Human Organizational Development, I think. And he said that was too much of a mouthful. So then he interviewed me instead and asked what the traditions were, so showed him the VU, showed him how, I don't know why nobody does this anymore. He went to games this season. People don't just smack on the floor anymore.
That
That's like one of our biggest advantages, make the floor shake, and it gives it a good atmosphere. So told him about that. That was a really good experience, and we took down a top 10 team. But there is more to come from that basketball season. Well,
just to add to that, Zach downplayed it a little bit. Not only was he interviewed for like a solid 8 minutes on the ESPN telecast, Zach's face was on the screen. They had
was in the corner.
They had like a double screen. They had the little screen in the corner, and then they had the other square that was showing the game. And the little screen in the corner was Zach with the interviewer. So that was extremely cool.
Yeah, very good experience. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like you said, sticking to that same basketball season, Game 1, once again, a time of high hopes. We were ranked 18 at the time, facing Austin Peay, who obviously was not ranked. And we got off to a 21-0 start. 21-0.
This was going into the year that we were supposed to be really good.
We were ranked 18 once again.
Yeah.
There was a lot of uncertainty with the team, though, because it was still a young team. It was a lot of sophomores that played well as freshmen, and the thought was that they would improve. And we saw 21-0, and we looked like one of the best teams in the country. That started the high optimism.
That was a crazy run. I remember that was so much fun to be at. That was the same weekend as the Sneaky Pete. That's a big weekend. That's 2 of our top 10 are within like a day of each other.
So these were our sophomore year. Zach and I were sophomores that year. That was a good year of sports.
It was. It was a pretty good year. Yeah. So next one, fast forwarding a little bit back to this football season.
It's number 5, by the way.
Number 5. Counting down our top 12, going backwards from 12. Got some football, basketball, baseball already in there, but number 5. Once you say it's from this football season, you already kind of know what game it is. It was the game against Kansas State. Got us out to a 3-0 start. It was a low-scoring game. We won 14-7. Our defense played great. We had a huge stop on 4th down with like 20 seconds left to win the game. Stadium was a sellout. Was almost full. Even though there's a lot of purple in the stadium, there were definitely more Vandy fans. That was a great atmosphere. Second best atmosphere I think we had at a game. And the top one is our number 1 on here. Or it's in our top 3 on here. And we won. we won, and then Nephi called out Bama after the game.
That was a bit bold. Now, we had beaten Alabama A&M the week prior.
That's true.
Which was a crimson-colored Alabama team, but
Maybe got mixed up.
They were not the same caliber of Alabama teams.
Definitely not.
Nonetheless, so this game got us to a 3-0 start. We had a very solid win against MTSU in week 1 that Zach and I were at.
Yeah, honorable mention right there. That one's not on the top 12, but we went to the game in Murfreesboro. We had great seats. We were in like the second row, right around like the 50-yard line. Got to see how excited all the players were getting. Got out to that 28-0 lead in that game. That was good. And then beat Alabama Alabama A&M the second week.
Yeah.
And then Kansas State.
And Zach mentioned Jesse Ertz's stop at the end of the game. Just for a little more context, it was 4th and 8. Well, before that, it was 3rd and 8 at the 19. So Kansas State was in the red zone. Then on 4th and 8 at the 19, Jesse Ertz ran for 7 yards on 4th and 8 once again.
They almost got it.
The stop was right before the first down marker, and had he gotten that first down, they're really close to scoring a touchdown to tie it. So that was a huge stop.
Huge stop.
Most fun game of this season, definitely.
By far. So number 4 in our top 12 sports moments of the last 12 years. This is one that we were not at, but would have been really fun to be at. It was our freshman year against Cal State Fullerton in baseball, and Jaron Kendall came up huge.
Yeah, we started the game down 3-0, and then there was like a huge rain delay, and the game was continued. I think in like the 7th inning. I think it stopped in either the 6th or 7th inning, sometime pretty late. We looked pretty hopeless, but that was one of those times where the rain delay, which was like a whole day, was really beneficial to us because we came back, scored a run, and then down 3-1. Yeah, Jaron Kendall hit a 3-run walk-off homer to take the lead.
And that was when there were still like hardly any home runs hit at Omaha. Like that, hardly anybody got the ball out there, and he hit a bomb over the bullpen.
I believe that was the first round or our first game in the College World Series.
Let's just talk about like how good that team was. Like we're gonna talk more about the victory, which was after we were both committed to come here. Before our freshman year, we were able to win it. But that 2015 team was absolutely ridiculous. Like Jaron Kendall was, I think, like the 8 hitter on that team. Well, that was his freshman year. Like him and Toffee were freshmen. Kyle Wright was our closer. Our rotation was Fulmer, Walker Buehler, who's making his MLB debut tonight, and Philip Pfeiffer, and Jordan Sheffield.
Kilchowski was good too.
Yeah, Kilchowski was good. He didn't even start. He was like our long reliever.
That team was star-studded.
It was. Brett Weissman, Brian Reynolds.
Yeah, it was better than the 2014 team.
Much better.
Had a better record. Really, really good. Xander Wheel was a stud too.
Yeah. That team was stacked. Absolutely stacked.
The CSU Fullerton team we faced had really good pitching. That was a top team too.
That was the key, was getting their pitcher out of there.
Yeah.
We hadn't done anything. Like the starter was down 3. They'd shut us out through 8 innings, and then the rain suspended the game. So we might not agree on the order coming up. We have agreed so far on our 4 through 12 of our best Vandy sports moments of the last 4 years. We have 3 more.
Okay, but you agree these are the top 3?
These are definitely the top.
Okay,
one of them's like we weren't really here for it, so I don't know.
Yeah, one of them may or may not count, but we were enrolled students at the time.
We were.
If that's
I think
an indication
I would.
Of what it's going to be.
I see how you have it, and I would switch it around. So we could keep going. Let's keep going how you have it, and then we'll comment on it.
Okay, so at number 3, we go back to our junior year, the 2016 football season. I think you know what game it is. It is the game against Tennessee when Vanderbilt claimed the state. Most fun football game I've ever been to, period.
Yes.
We started down 21-7. That was probably in like the first 16 or 17 minutes of the game in which Tennessee scored 21. We really could not stop their offense. Came back, though, to make it 31-24 at the half. A lot more hope at that time. Also, for some total stats, we only let up a field goal in the second half. Defense really stepped it up in the second half.
That's the play at the end of the game where Alvin Kamara went out of bounds on 4th down before the reaching to the marker. That's how that one ended.
Yeah, I think Tennessee missed a field goal somewhere in there too. But an offensive field day, and that's partially what made that game so fun to watch.
Yeah.
That is the day Air Caleb was born, if you forget.
Oh, he had those 2 diving catches that were on like bombs from Kyle Shermer.
That
was
two of the best catches we've seen while at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Kyle Shermer threw for 416 yards. That was the emergence of Shermer. Sherfield caught for nine passes for 184 yards. And that was the most Vandy had scored against an SEC opponent since 1971.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That was so fun. This is my number 1. I'll just say it straight up. This was
really
fun.
fun.
The stadium was full. You got to see all the Tennessee fans leaving early as the game went on, like at the very end of it. And Ralph Webb barreled over the guy for the final touchdown on that run. Oh, such a complete game. And then we got to go down and see Derek Mason jumping around at the end of the game, saying, "This is our state," taking pictures, like running around the whole stadium. Oh, it was great. And he was dancing on the sidelines. Remember that too? They were playing the music. Yeah.
As happy as a clam.
That was great.
Born that day.
Yeah.
That was
a great experience.
Really fun. Ralph Webb broke the all-time scoring record for Vanderbilt on that day.
And we came back early from Thanksgiving break to be there. Definitely worth it.
Decent weather too. I was really scared that it was gonna be freezing. It was chilly, but it was not bad.
It was not like the Texas A&M game.
Not at all. After the game, my boy Adam Butler said there's no need to say anything for 365 days. Well, it's actually more than 365.
It's like 870 now, I think.
Well, yeah, something like that at this point. But yeah, 730 plus since we have won 2 years in a row. So that's your number 1. I put it at number 3.
But all these ones are really
good games.
Yeah.
Number 2, one last time we go back to our sophomore year. The basketball team, February 27, 2016, Vandy upsets number 16 Kentucky 74-62. We stormed the court.
That was fun.
It was really
fun. That was a good
storming
game.
The court. I think the storming the court is what put it above the football game for me. Just because storming the court was so memorable, and it's something that a lot of college students want to do at some point in their college career.
That was such a good game. That was so good. Won by 12 points. Fisher Davis had a huge day. He had 20 points on 7 of 12 shooting. Jamal Murray on the other team, NBA starter now. Think about that team was pretty solid. They had Ulyss and Jamal Murray and Isaiah Briscoe were their backcourt, and Scalabissier was on the team as well. That was a good team. That's like a lot of NBA caliber players on it. And huge day from all of our starters. I don't think we had any bench points. We had 1 bench point.
Wow.
That's crazy. Riley LaChance came off the bench that day and had 1 point. That team was so good. That was when we had Roberson being able to play the 3. Like our starting lineup was Baldwin, Fisher Davis, Roberson, Cornette, and Damian. And all 4 of Roberson, Damian, Wade, and Fisher Davis had 14 plus in the game. And then we only had 1 bench point from Riley LaChance.
So we've listed our favorite football game. We've listed our favorite basketball game. And number 1, maybe it belongs on the list. Maybe it doesn't. It's when we won the College World Series.
I was pretty pumped.
So Zach and I had not yet taken a single class at Vanderbilt, but we were both enrolled at the school. It was the summer after our senior year, I guess. We knew we were going to Vanderbilt. We were following the entire playoffs, really.
Uh-huh.
And we won a championship. Doesn't get much better than that.
No, I remember the dog pile on the pitcher's mound after we got that final out. That was a good team, too. Really good team. But we weren't expected to win. We were not expected to win that year. It's crazy. Like, Virginia was the better team that year, and then we were the better team the year after.
Things flipped. Sometimes the worst team wins, especially in a series of only 3 games. The score was 2-2 in the 8th inning. John Norwood hit a solo shot. One of the most memorable
The ball
plays.
was like up and in too. It was like almost near his face and like inside, and he just turned on it. And I think that might have been like the only home run of the College World Series. Yeah.
Something like that. There were not many home runs.
No, that was before they changed the ball too.
Yeah, just a little over the left field wall. Gave us the win. Obviously, there's 1 inning after that, but at that point, I realized we have a really, really good shot of winning the way pitching was going.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good way to start our time here at Vanderbilt. That's for sure.
Indeed. So those are our 12 favorite games that we have seen either on TV or live while students at Vanderbilt.
So for the show, we still have coming up our favorite plays and moments and the best players that we've seen in the 3 major sports. So you're listening to the final show of JT and Zeek on West End, and going to go quick break and then come back and talk about that stuff.
Yep, stay tuned. Welcome back. Wow, I wish we could listen to that 1,000 more times. But we have a lot more left in this show. You're listening to JT and Zeek on West End for the last time on Vandy Radio. This is also the last talk show of the year on Vandy Radio.
Saving the best for last.
Really saving the best for last. Very, very special day. I'm glad that you all get to listen to us live.
Yeah, it's going to be sad moving on from JT and Zeke, but we're going to go out with a bang, recapping all of our favorite moments over the last 4 years. So we did games. We did our favorite games. Now we're going to move on to favorite plays.
Yeah, it might be a little unorganized, but these are some really high emotional plays and moments that we got to let out.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with the Zach Cunningham tackle against Georgia.
That was a good game. That could have been on our favorite games, too.
That was one of, it probably should be top 12.
Yeah, it should be top 12, yeah.
But those 12 games were also really good, so it's hard to pick.
It's up there, though.
That was our first high quality win, though.
Mason's first road SEC win, I think.
I remember, I forget if I was with you or not, in the Commons Center eating breakfast, watching the game on a little iPhone. And the game started off really well with that kick return. We took to the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
And I didn't have high hopes going into the game, but at that point I was like, wait, well, we have a good momentum to start the game. Maybe we'll have a chance. And it was a really good game all around.
Yeah,
great situational football, especially that final tackle, Zach Cunningham, 4th down. Did a back row with the I forgot if it was Chubb or it was a really good running back, whoever it was. It might have been their freshman running back at the time. Oh,
it was like a receiver that they used to try to go wide instead of go up the middle.
Was it a receiver? Okay.
Yeah. Or one of their utility guys. 17-16 the final score. And Georgia would go on to make the playoff the next year. This was a huge win. It was a massive win. It was Isaiah McKenzie he stopped.
Okay, that's
on
right.
the carry. And this game, I think, didn't Cunningham had 19 tackles. Ryan White had 12 tackles. They combined for over 30 tackles, the two of them. Those got to be two of our best football players that we've seen here.
Yeah,
sure.
And we'll mention some of our favorite and best players that we have seen. Zach Cunningham, number 1 for football. 19 tackles, and that wasn't even that uncharacteristic of a day. He put up double-digit tackles every single game.
He led the league in tackles, by a fair amount.
But that was my favorite tackle. He really pulled that guy back 2 yards.
Yeah. Had
he gotten that first down, we'd lose that game.
Good chance, because they would have pretty much been in field goal range at that point.
Yeah.
And we're only up 1. They had a pretty good kicker. Yeah, we probably would have lost that game. That was a fantastic moment. Sticking with football, we already mentioned it, but Ralph Webb barreling over the defender in the Tennessee game to really finish off the game. That was good. Another moment from Webb. Remember when he jumped over the MTSU defender? That's in all of the Vanderbilt football hype videos they show on the screen before the game or they use for marketing purposes. That was one of the most athletic plays that I've seen here.
Forced overtime too, right?
That was a close game. Wasn't that the game where there was the huge rain delay and then it came back and started, or was that the different year?
That was a different year. This one I'm pretty sure forced overtime, then we won in OT.
Okay.
That was the long
even better
run, yeah.
Yeah, those games blend together a little, but it's the moment. It's the moment that sticks out.
Yeah.
So that's one of the most athletic plays for sure. And I think there might be a Damian Jones play that might take, it might be the most athletic play. What do you think?
We've seen. That was it was a mean dunk.
A poster dunk at the end of the game at Arkansas.
Yeah,
at the buzzer.
It was at the buzzer.
Yeah.
Damian had some really good dunks. I do miss seeing those poster dunks.
He would get up so quick.
Dunker.
Yeah, he was.
Didn't have the highest vertical. Wasn't the quickest player, but he had powerful dunks.
He got up quick. That was his strength. He got up off the ground so fast. Joe Toye also might have had the most athletic play that we've seen. That dunk against Mississippi State might have been the best dunk in the SEC. All of the SEC this year. Absolute poster dunk was number 1. on the Sports Center top 10.
And speaking about most athletic plays we've seen, we gotta mention Eric Caleb. Just one more time, those Tennessee catches.
Those were great.
But,
athletic though. Josh Henderson. Henderson, three-quarter court shot.
Court against Florida.
Beat them 3 times that year.
In a game we won, the shot didn't win the game. If it had won the game, that would have made it even more crazy.
The best part was him taking the popcorn from the fan running into the tunnel. Remember that?
Yeah.
that was the really crazy thing about it was how he shot it. It's like he just turned it and like threw it like from his hip. He doesn't even like a shot.
It was off a rebound.
It wasn't running or anything.
It was a full oblique twist shot.
He might have been the most underrated basketball player we had. Like he was solid. He could knock down a mid-range, could knock down a three-quarter court, 7 feet tall.
He'd be really good to have right now.
He would be a huge asset to
solid
this team.
shooter, especially from 70 feet out.
Some moments off the field. Dansby Swanson going number 1 overall in the 2015 draft was that was great.
The whole team was surrounding him. The whole team celebrated, and it was amid the playoffs, a time when a really, really good team, as we've mentioned, and of course Dansby Swanson was at the top of that, going number 1 overall. He wasn't the only one drafted that year either. We had a few first-round picks.
Carson Fulmer also in the top 10. Walker
overall.
Buehler making his MLB debut tonight was number 20-something, low 20s.
Yeah.
And that team was so good. That team was Rhett Weissman in that draft as well. Philip Pfeiffer was a 2nd or 3rd round pick. That team was stacked.
And another off-the-field moment that was extremely exciting. Darius Garland's commitment on November 13th of this year, or 2017, but our senior year. The start of really strong Vanderbilt basketball recruiting. Just a little over 1 week later, Simi Shatu committed November 22nd. Those are both the top. Each one of them are the best recruits we've ever gotten at Vanderbilt. Both 5 stars.
Both in the top 10.
12.
Yeah. Garland moved up. He's the number 1 point guard in all of the rankings now. Really strong, like all-star season for him going around to all these all-star games. He's so quick. You could see he sees the whole floor. His vision is insane, and he has a great jump shot as well. We're looking forward to seeing him.
And those commitments make us very excited about Bryce Drew. But the first time we got excited about Bryce Drew was when we did our own coaching search 2 years ago. Zach and I were a little unhappy with the basketball situation at Vanderbilt. We did our own due diligence to make a list of quality potential head coaches for us to hire. One of them was Bryce Drew. You hear it in the introduction of our show every single week.
I like to think that we made a real difference there. Like we might be the people that got like the administration thinking, Bryce Drew. They sorted through all of our other suggestions. It was the most fun podcast. I think it was the best, most entertaining podcast if you go back and try to listen to it. The coaching search one. Kevin Stallings wasn't even fired yet, and he didn't ever even get fired. Like that whole situation with him going to Pitt was really a blessing for us. And we talked about some real good candidates like Bryce Drew. Archie Miller was on the list, Indiana's coach. Some other guys, Brad Underwood, Kenny Payne, Kenny Atkinson, and also some guys that were really out-of-the-box selections that we think would have succeeded as well. My favorite being Kenyon Martin. You have any other favorites from that episode?
They were all really great. I think Chauncey Billups was a somewhat realistic,
he would have been good
box solution. Yeah. Tim Duncan, Kobe would have been great. Shaq would have been great. Lots of out-of-the-box guys.
Emeka Okafor,
who's back in the league now, but was kind of in the free market at the time. Extremely smart, considered Vanderbilt when he was going to play. Chose UConn in the end.
Also, before we move on from Kevin Stallings, there was another great moment from him cursing at Wade Baldwin that made it on the Sports Center. That was ridiculous, made him look pretty bad, and might have actually accelerated the process of him leaving.
Yeah, certainly. I'd say this entire basketball season at Pitt was also a high moment as a Vanderbilt sports fan. Seeing him go winless.
I didn't mind him, though. He was kind of he was unique. He wanted to win, though. He loved Vanderbilt. He was a good coach. Didn't get us in any FBI trouble that would hurt us now with our recruiting. But yeah, seeing him go all defeated, damn, that team was bad that he had this year. So there's some other moments near the top. We mentioned while doing our favorite games, but storming the court against Kentucky, that has got to be the favorite singular moment. John Norwood's home run was great to take the lead and win the College World Series, and seeing Derek Mason dance around the field. That was also.
And Another great moment is when Zeke and I were on the ESPN Twitter for Zach's fist pump.
I don't remember what game it was.
During a basketball game. I don't remember either. Sophomore year, though.
Yeah. We made it on the TV quite a bit.
Yeah.
In the front row, a lot of those.
SEC Nation, my Tim Tebow sign was on the
Oh, we got a picture
Twitter.
with Tim Tebow.
We got a picture with Tim Tebow and Paul Feinbaum.
Yeah. I got a picture with Bryce Drew at it this year. He was there. For SEC Nation.
Yeah, I didn't get a picture with Bryce Drew, but we both went to his initial press conference.
That was fun.
And I was interviewed by someone from the Tennessean, and they quoted me in the article. That was cool.
Getting the opportunity to cover some of the spring practices also for 24/7 Sports feels like a while ago, but covering those our sophomore year was a really good experience. And we left one out. We actually missed one. Luke Cornett. You went back and found this one. Luke Cornett's triple-double.
Triple-double, not with assists, but with blocks, points, rebounds. 10 blocks, a school record. That's just absurd. Who gets 10 blocks in a game?
And he got it in the last few seconds, right? Wasn't there like a missed free throw? Then Kressler rebounded it and handed it off to Luke, and he got the layup with like hardly any time left to put him over the 10-point mark.
Yep. All right. That was January 12th of 2016. It was against Auburn too. It wasn't against some like lowly opponent. It was an SEC game.
Yeah.
Love Luke Cornett. Speaking of which, let's talk about some of the players that we have loved watching while students at Vanderbilt.
So talking about basketball, Luke Cornett, a fan favorite. Everybody with the Luke whenever he did anything good. Blocked a ton of shots. Really good defensive player. I remember before that year, our sophomore year, when we had Wade and Luke and Damian and we're supposed to really make a run at it, that Kevin Stallings said that Cornett was our best defensive player, which we thought was crazy. We thought Jeff Roberson was clearly our best defensive player, but Cornett, shut down defender in the post, didn't pick up any fouls. I loved watching him play.
That was an unbelievable year-to-year transformation. Luke Cornett went from probably a defensive liability to one of the best defenders in the country.
Yeah.
Averaged over 2 blocks per game that year.
He did.
Really, a guy you have to love. The effort he put in, the improvement he made every year.
We could
really
have him.
great student, really nice kid.
I wish we could have him for this upcoming year. I guess any college team wishes they could have him.
Yeah,
at this point.
At least your New York Knicks have him. We wish him the best, and really hoping he has a great career. You can't talk about Luke without talking about his tall friend Damian Jones.
Such a nice guy.
Also, really nice guy. Used to sit next to him in econ stat class. Front row too. Front row, good. Yeah, good student. Both of them were engineers, Luke and Damian. Tall engineers. You'd see them in Rand sitting at the big tables where my feet are like 3 feet off of the ground and theirs would be touching the ground.
Yeah, that was crazy. They'd sit in like essentially like bar stools, and their feet would be like flat on the ground and their knees would be bent a little bit.
Yeah, always stood out on campus. Damian came in as a low 4-star recruit, really from the beginning shined a little more than expected, had a great career at Vanderbilt in his 3 seasons, currently on the Warriors.
It stood out to me that first season, like watching at home that first season, that dunk against Tennessee that they would always show in the intros, that poster dunk before we got here. It's like, wow, this guy has a lot of potential. Continuing on, this guy I think is the best player that we've seen, not the flashiest. This year he had the best stats, but not always had the best stats. Always did what was asked of him, tried his hardest. High effort guy, Jeff Roberson, career 40% plus 3-point shooter. Could guard any position on the floor. He's not that much taller than me. He's listed at 6'6". He's really like 6'4.5", and he'd play center a lot this year. Played the 3 back in 2015, 2016. Jeff Roberson, probably my favorite player, and maybe the best player if you count in all of his 4 years that we've seen.
If you want to talk about the player that has contributed most to this program,
that's a good way to put it.
It's Jeff Roberson. Yeah, and he gave all 4 years, started all 4 years. Even as a freshman, he wasn't great.
Started every game, I think.
Yeah, wasn't great yet. Started every game, and really improved to this year. Unbelievable scorer, very efficient, great defender.
He was like a 2-star recruit. He was ranked outside the top 300.
He was by far the lowest recruit from that class.
That we've gotten the entire time we've been here. The lowest rated recruit.
That's true. Bangford
best player. Yeah.
With him. Jeff Roberson, yeah. We owe a lot to him. He's really helped a lot to this program. He's meant a lot to us. Sticking with that recruiting class, you have Riley LaChance, who really started quickly. His freshman year, I think it was that like 26-point game against. I'm pretty sure it was the Purdue game. It was against like someone pretty good though.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of 20+ point games from the beginning. Small, only around 6 feet, listed at 6'1", I believe. Great shooter, great scorer. He shined early on. Maybe he was overlooked, wasn't scouted a ton by the other teams.
Yeah, Riley LeChance regressed a little bit and then really finished strong his senior year. Him and Roberson carried the team. So, yeah, LeChance and Roberson, probably the two guys that contributed the most. Wade Baldwin, an absolute stud. That's what it says in the intro. He was a lottery pick, he's on the Blazers now. Fun to watch, only stuck around 2 years. James Siakam, only saw 1 year of him. Really high effort guy. And Matthew Fisher-Davis, when he was on, he was probably our best player. A little streaky, but really fun to watch his jump shot.
Yeah, MFD, one of the best shooters I've seen. Siakam, great effort. Baldwin, best talent I've seen on the team.
Good way to put it. So let's talk about baseball. These are some guys that got multi-million-dollar signing bonuses. A lot of them are in the big leagues right now that we're going to talk about. We're going to run down our top 5 and then plus a couple more baseball players that we've seen here. I think that the best player that I saw here in person might not be the opinion that everybody has, but Carson Fulmer. You go on Friday night, they'd be wearing the gangster PJ black striped uniforms, and you know you're getting a win. He was 14-2 with a 1.83 ERA as a starter, had 167 strikeouts and 127 innings, went deep every game. It was hardly ever that you'd see him come out before the 7th inning, and ended up being a top 10 pick.
Yeah, Carson Fulmer was great. So was Dansby Swanson.
Yeah.
Batted .335 his junior season. One of the best fielders I've seen live.
Yeah.
Derek Jeter-esque. .423 on-base percentage that season, too.
Clutch.
Was the MVP of the College World Series in 2014, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Was not statistically as talented that year, but I think that was the beginning of everyone's obsession with Dansby Swanson, and he lived up to the hype.
He did, having a great year for the Braves so far. Walker Buehler, as we mentioned, making his MLB debut tonight. His junior year, he was hurt for some of the year, ended up having Tommy John at the end of the season, fell into the 20s in the draft, but talent-wise and potential-wise, definitely the best that we've seen here. He has 5, sometimes uses 6 pitches, throws like 98, and has a ton of movement, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the big leagues. Our rotation was so good. We had Fulmer, Buehler, Philip Pfeiffer, and Jordan Sheffield, and John Kilichowski that year. That rotation was unbelievable.
Yeah, we have covered some studs on this baseball team.
Yeah.
Going to move on to Jaron Kendall, who hit a career 300 while at Vanderbilt. Started since his freshman year. During his sophomore year, I remember that the start to that season where he hit like several home runs in the first week.
Yeah, he
that
had
was
like
the
3
point
in
when
like
I
the first
said
weekend.
he
Yeah.
might be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft.
Could have been. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't number 1, but
Close to it.
close enough. Unbelievable talent.
In the first round.
All around, too. Power, speed, fielding.
Brian Reynolds, I think, led the league in doubles his freshman year. Was solid the whole time. A really pure hitter. Really consistent. Could hit from both sides of the plate. He was a switch hitter. And his junior year, he had a huge year with hitting .330 with 13 bombs as well. And Rhett Weissman on that team that ended up going both of the teams he played that went to the College World Series finals. He was so fun to watch. He in his batting stance, he'd get down where his ass is like almost on the floor, and he would swing so hard every single time that he came up, and it would either be a swing and a miss, or when he connected, he'd put them in the street out there over the right field bleachers.
Yeah, really powerful, pretty big, strong guy. From around my hometown, went to a rival high school. And we have to mention Kyle Wright also, who, when at his best, was one of the most fun pitchers to watch.
He was
Had
good.
5 different pitches, lots of movement.
He was our closer on that squad. That's how good that squad
Yeah,
was.
his freshman year, he showed a lot.
He had like a
potential.
1 ERA
Yeah.
as a closer. He had a ton of movement, 2 different arm angles. Sometimes he like throws it sidearm. And after his freshman to sophomore year, he went from sitting like 93, 94 to sitting like 96. Added a lot of velocity also. And ended up being, he was the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, true.
That's pretty crazy.
Lots of great players. A few more to mention. Will Toffee.
Oh no, he was the number 5 pick, not the number 1 overall pick. He was the Braves' first selection
rounder.
that year. Yeah, first rounder.
Will Toffee, Xander Wheel, Ro Coleman, the the little one. Everyone loved him. Philip Pfeiffer. We've seen a lot of great baseball players go through the program. We're going to see a lot more in the future. Now we got to talk about some of our favorite football players we've seen here. We went from a freshman year team that was a tough start, 37-7 loss against Temple. That was a season in which we saw Steven Rivers get play time at quarterback.
That's bad. Terrible.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Ronald Monroe. This is a big movement that JT and Zeek tried to start. Was Ronald Monroe at quarterback at a time in which Vanderbilt offense was not really working.
It would give us the dual threat. He was a really good quarterback in high school. He would retweet some of our tweets saying Ronald Monroe should be the quarterback, give him the opportunity. He really liked that. But some of the best players we've seen, got to start with Zach Cunningham, as Jimmy mentioned earlier, Ralph Webb at running back, Stephen Weatherly on the defensive line, Caleb Azubike, Nigel Bowden. The list really goes on. We saw a lot of solid players here.
Oh, yeah. Openshaw, really solid career. Ryan White, one of my favorites.
Ladarius Wiley, very underrated. Primed for a huge year. One of our best players going into the season this year.
Adam Butler was underrated.
Torrin McGaster, he was pretty much a shutdown corner. Yeah. I wish that he got more of a shot with the pros, playing in the pros as well. He was solid. He was fast. He was a pretty nice guy, too, talking to him.
A few other guys that we were just, huge fans of. DeAndre Woods. I was a big DeAndre Woods guy.
Yeah, it was a shame when he got hurt.
Too bad he was injured.
Yeah, he had a lot of potential. Darian Herring, that was one thing we couldn't get over on the podcast, was he was so much bigger than he was listed at. I don't know if you remember hearing us say that. He was listed at 225, and he was huge. He had to be at least 250 pounds.
I'm still convinced. Part of me feels like I should be going to med school so I can one day be his doctor and weigh him. I would like to know.
It's worth the 8 years of going through that to know how much he really weighs.
And we got to see a tiny bit of Patton Robinette, too.
I
was a big Robinette fan.
Yeah, I wish if he stayed healthy that year, we would have been a lot better. If he stayed healthy, we wouldn't have lost that Temple game.
And
Possibly.
We've seen not only some great Vanderbilt athletes, but a lot of super talented athletes at other SEC schools and just opponents in general. We got to see Dak Prescott. That's huge. One of the better NFL quarterbacks.
Ooh, moments.
Mississippi State.
Remembering a moment, and I meant not to say Temple. I mean South Carolina game, because that's where I'm going next. Remember Darius Sims had 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown? One game. That was huge. We would have won that game if Robinette stayed in.
True that.
Seen a lot of really good players here. We've had coaching stability in 2 of the sports, and us conducting the coaching search is really the most beneficial thing that's going to happen to Vanderbilt. Like Bryce Drew bringing in these 5-star recruits, keep them for a couple of years, get some more. Like, the school kind of owes us a little bit.
I wonder if they're going to give us a call next time they're looking for a coach in any sport.
Yeah.
We can do the research.
If Mason decides to leave or we decide to move on in that, I think that we'd conduct a pretty good football search.
Oh, absolutely. I already have a list in my head. Tim Tebow would obviously be on it, but yeah.
It was huge getting Jawan Williams to come here, too. Probably our best returning probably our top 3 maybe best returning players this year. Shutdown corner. The local guy was the top recruit, I believe, during Mason besides Nephi.
Yeah.
And then this year's recruiting class is very strong as well.
Yeah, Josh Smith was a good recruit, too.
Josh Smith, yeah.
Obviously having Manny.
Smith Bros on the rise.
Yeah, Smith Bros on the rise. And we have another pair of brothers on the team, the Odi Ingbos.
Yeah.
Solid recruits also.
They are.
But just to breeze through a few of the athletes we've seen in football. Dak Prescott, Laquan Treadwell, Robert Kemdici.
These are opponents.
Yeah. Teams, people we've played against. Laramie Tunsil. These are a lot of top draft picks. Wow. Vernon Hargraves, Jalen Tease Tabor, Alvin Kamara, who's been really good. Myles Garrett, top pick. Montravius Adams, Carl Lawson. Greg Ward Jr., he was good.
Alabama.
Houston. And then everyone on Alabama. We don't need to list them all. But I do want to mention Tua got his, for the first time, got pretty decent play time.
He was really good. We were like, wow, he was good.
Yeah, you knew that. 10 or 9 of 11 that game.
Yeah, he was really good. In basketball, saw some really good players as well. Ben Simmons, Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, Torian Waller-Prince. Remember that? Who was that guy? Oh, Rico Gathers Sr. on Baylor, the really huge guy, too.
Yeah, Josh Richardson's doing all right in the pros. He's playing for the Heat right now in the playoffs, and he's averaging close to double digits.
Bobby Portis, Tyler Eulis, Jamal Murray on that team that we beat. Fred Van Fleet and Ron Baker on the team that killed our dreams in the first 4 of that year. Colin Sexton, some other guys that are going to the draft this year.
Yeah.
So Andrew Benintendi in baseball. So Alex Bregman in baseball.
You might find a video of him punching a guy or two, but Went to Cincinnati. He completed his degree. He has a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
He went 1-1 in the draft. He retired after the 2014-2015 season and said he's interested in coaching on the college or NBA level. And although this guy's covered from head to toe in tattoos, you listen to his press conferences, he's a well-spoken guy, and he actually sounds pretty smart.
Yeah, so you mentioned he's a hothead, and sure, that's not the greatest thing, but why did we lose the last 3 games? It was lack of effort.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to. We need
And focus.
Yeah, we need a guy that can fire up the players. I
yeah.
am fully convinced that Kenyon Martin would be that guy.
Oh, there's nobody could argue that Kenyon Martin can't get the guys fired up. Whether he can coach X's and O's basketball, that's why you have assistant coaches. But a motivator, hiring Kenyon Martin would be like hiring Ray Lewis in football.